Hello and welcome to my channel and welcome to another foundation video. I've been missing these. If you haven't noticed, over the past couple of months I've been doing less new makeup hauls and videos and focusing more on how to use makeup and fashion videos, fashion content, and honestly that's where my money has gone. It's not that I wasn't an official no buy or low buy, but I kinda was. But this one intrigued me and I did just finish up my favorite NARS Light Reflecting Foundation, which was the perfect shade for me. So I figured it was okay to give another foundation a try this year. Cue the Smashbox Always On Skin Balancing Foundation plus Hyaluronic Acid and Adaptogens. That's a long name. I'm just going to say the Always On foundation. The brilliant thing is I got this in a Black Friday sale and that made it pretty reasonably priced. This is a high-end product. I think it retails for around 40 euros, but I got it for around 25. Thought it was decent. Heard amazing things about this foundation. Except that I heard them pretty late. This foundation came out a couple of months ago and it completely went under my radar. I think I wasn't wearing as much foundation at the time, so I wasn't really watching the reviews, but a subscriber of mine, you know who you are, asked me at some point whether I was going to try this foundation, and I figured I don't really try Smashbox, but let's see what people think. And people think amazing things of this. They call it the best foundation of 2023. So that got me hooked and now I have to try it. This is the finished look. I'm not going to give anything away. We'll just skip into the demo after I give you a couple of bits of information. I already mentioned the price. I got mine in the shade F10W. There are 30 shades, it's 30 ml, all very standard. I think the range is pretty decent. It goes from pretty light to pretty dark. Although I must say I'm not the fairest of the fairest, and if this is the lightest shade that they have, could have gone a little bit lighter, but I can't speak on behalf of the darker shades, but it looked decent to me. They have a range of undertones. I personally chose a warm undertone, which I think suits me pretty well. Oh yeah, some claims, because this is the interesting part. It's supposed to balance between oily and hydrating. So it balances out too oily and it balances out too dry by using hyaluronic acid and adaptogens, which is supposed to counteract both of them. Me with normal skin likes that because I have some drier parts of my face and I have some more oily parts, specifically my nose and a little bit over here, sometimes my forehead. So I like the fact that both of them are getting corrected. And I specifically like the claim that this will happen over the course of 16 hours. So until the end of the day, it has this primer effect that will balance out your skin, making your foundation look natural, slightly glowy, not too glowy, not greasy, and not dry or flaky. So it specifically says won't cake, flake, or streak, won't transfer, fade, is crease resistant, and complexion looks natural and even for 16 hours. So those are some bold claims, but I like them. I like that this is a skincare infused foundation, but it's not extremely dewy. I've been looking back at my old pictures. You may have seen my past video, thinking that I look kinda a little bit too greasy. So I like to have a more natural look at the moment. I don't wear foundation every day anymore, and when I do, I kind of want to be able to walk out of the door without getting weird looks, except for my eyeshadow, of course. That's totally different. So with that out of the way, let's cue the demo, and then later on I'll show you a wear test. So it looks really dark in this room. It's actually 9:40 in the morning and it's still this dark. So I have my artificial light. There is some natural lighting, but I figured for the application portion this would be good enough. I'll film the intro later. Do we like this hairstyle? The pink has completely disappeared by now, but I'm okay with the blonde as well. Also, we have our little friend today, which will make it very easy to see how well this covers redness and how it looks on top of bumps. I'll also pin up my hair and then we can get started. There we go. So I got this shade F10W, which I believe is the lightest yellow toned or warm toned shade. And I'll show you a picture of the model who was wearing this shade. And I feel like with her hair color and everything, she looked quite similar to me. So I think we're going to be good. I also saw somewhere in the reviews that it was better with a primer. I'm not going to use a primer at all. My skin is normal. I probably mentioned this, so if a foundation doesn't work on my skin, it's usually the foundation's problem. So here we are. Looks pretty good. Let's do a little comparison with whatever is remaining of my NARS foundation. Looks a little lighter, but quite similar. I think if anything, this was just a tad too dark, so this is perfect. But I really like the undertone of the NARS. So this is what the shade looks like. It's going to be good, I think. Okay, let's see. I'm not going to use too much all at once. Looks a little bit light. But it kind of matches my neck. So I have a lot of redness in my face. So I think that could just be it. Coverage is pretty decent. I still have this much left. Although I must say this looks still pretty red. I do actually really like this amount of coverage though. I like the fact that I can use just the tiniest bit and it still looks kind of creamy and full, but it doesn't feel heavy. I don't think so. And it covers quite a lot, and I could always use a little bit of concealer if I really want this gone, but usually I don't really care about that anymore. And I think it'll look less ghostly pale with everything else done, but it's definitely a shade lighter than my NARS, which was in the shade Gobi. So just be aware, but I think the undertone is pretty similar. So yeah, I still have this much left. This was like a double pea size amount, maybe even a little bit less, and I think it looks pretty good. So let's do the other half, and then maybe I'll add a little bit more coverage over there. I have to say, on this other half of my face, where there's not as much blemishes, it just goes so effortlessly. It's truly quite brilliant. I was wondering how it would work, because hyaluronic acid is usually not the best ingredient for me because it dries out my skin, but it sounded all so balanced in the ingredients that I figured it would work anyway. So what I'm experiencing is that it does indeed look a little bit dry on my nose, but to be fair, my nose always gets oily during the day. So I think it'll balance itself out just like it should. And I actually think it looks really nice and natural with the slightest sheen over here on my cheeks. I think if you don't have any big blemishes or like a lot of redness to cover, and you saw that my face was pretty red, I think just a pea-sized amount for half of your face really gives you almost, well, it gives you a high medium. I still have a little bit of redness here. I personally love this amount. I still have a little bit of foundation left. So I'm going to try and build up right over there, because it does say that it's buildable to full. Yeah, I don't think that made the biggest difference. It definitely looks a little bit more full coverage around it, but I think this type of blemish, which is kind of purpley and kind of sticks out, it's just difficult to cover with foundation. I would actually use both a color corrector and a concealer if I really wanted to cover this spot. So I can't really blame the foundation for that. I do think it was definitely buildable on the other places. I have a tiny bit left. I'm going to cover it here. Yeah, with just a little bit of foundation, you can actually cover it up quite a bit. But I have to say, prominent marks on your face, like birthmarks that I have over here, or like these blemishes, you're not going to cover them. I don't think so. See? But I actually really like this. I like how the formula is kind of thick, but it spreads out on your face kind of thin. That's the type of formula that I like. So far so good. Forehead check, doesn't look too dry. I think it could use a little bit of powder in this area. It's not necessarily a smoothing foundation, but I have to say I'm already sweating a little bit because you can only turn the heater on here and then it gets really hot or it gets really cold. It's like on or off. So I'm just really hot all the time. That's why I'm wearing just a little cami. So yeah, my upper lip is already sweating a little bit. So that'll be a good wear test in this room. I'm also thinking of going out, and outside it's pretty cold. So I'm going in and outside of public transportation, stores. I'm actually doing a city day today. So it'll get a proper wear test. Let me finish up the rest of my makeup. I'll try to keep it a little bit simple, and then I'll show you the finished look. So I'm back. This is the finished look and I'm quite happy with it. I think the foundation performed so well. I actually did my eye makeup last, which is not something I usually do because I always mess it up and then I have to wipe some things away. So I tried to, and by trying to, I removed this whole section of my foundation, and I already powdered and everything, and I just went over it with a brush and it pretty much looks like new. And this is also the part where there actually was concealer, so I don't know how it happened, but it just sort of looks fine. And I just added a little bit of powder on top and it's perfect. So I think this foundation, I just did the thumbnail pictures. I think it looks really, I don't know how to explain it. It just looks sort of creamy, not too much, but healthy. And this is especially weird because I get that effect a lot, but then I apply a lot and it doesn't really last and it doesn't feel nice after a couple of hours. But I really applied just a very thin layer and it still has this effect. So far so good. I like the fact that it still kind of looks natural. I mean, I don't like this spot, but I like the fact that it doesn't cover those type of things up completely. If you do like that, again, use some concealer. This is not a full coverage foundation. I don't think so, unless you really cake it on, maybe. But although, yeah, this spot over here, this is one of my biggest birthmarks. Yeah, you can definitely still see it, but I think it's fine. I like the way this looks. I just did a little bit of cream bronzer, a little bit of blush, and only highlight over here, and then some simple eye makeup, and a little bit of powder, mainly over here, and just a little bit around this area, but really not much. So I think the wear test is going to be pretty fair. Yeah, I'm really excited to be wearing this makeup all day. I hope it stays as comfortable as it feels right now. And I'll meet up with you in a couple of hours. It is now 10 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, let's see if we can last pretty long. All right, I'll see you in a couple of hours. Hi, welcome to me after being a day in the rain. It's now almost 4 o'clock, which means that I've been outside in the rain, in poor wind and weather for about 4.5 hours. And yeah, I've definitely not shied away from the rain at all. I didn't bring an umbrella or anything like that. So this is what it looks like. I just arrived. I haven't even patted off my face yet. I accidentally scratched my nose. And honestly, this looks amazing. The only thing that I would do is that I would take a tissue and very gently dab some areas around my hairline and especially my upper lip, just because I get sweaty there. And then I think we are still looking quite flawless. Let me grab a mirror just to be sure. Okay, so I dabbed off this area and I can see a little bit of wear and tear, like right around here. If I look real close. This part around my nose is getting a little bit oily, but nothing too crazy. Actually, I thought, seeing myself in the reflection in the stores and stuff, that it looked a little bit dry. But honestly, if anything, it looks a little bit more glowy than it started. Unfortunately, I do see some lines right here and also over here, like smile lines. I think this is an easy fix. Stepping over a little bit. Yeah, it looks good as new. I think if you add a little bit of powder on top of that, or start with a little bit more powder to begin with, I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. I kind of like what it did on my forehead. It doesn't really emphasize any of my fine lines. So far, I'm very impressed. I was thinking that if this does so well in the rain, then imagine how well it does in summer when you're sweating. I mean, it's gonna be a game changer. I'm going to hold off my opinion. I'm going to hold off on my opinions for just a couple of more hours. I feel like we can stretch this till at least 10 hours. 10, 11, 12. Let's see what happens. Hello. It's now a couple of hours later. It's 7:30. So I've been wearing this for 9.5 hours. And I figured that was plenty. I really want to take my makeup off and be able to work out in a little bit. And also, I feel like I've done a very good wear test wearing this through the rain. I was thinking back about it and it was like pouring at some points. My hair was completely wet, my t-shirt and everything were completely wet, but my makeup is still kind of perfect. So I think that says the most, but afterwards I've been sitting here, it's slowly heating up. I wanted to know if my skin was crackly after those times, and it really isn't. I think it doesn't look as smooth as when I just applied it, I'll give it that. But honestly, it doesn't look like it's been rained on at all and then afterwards dried. It actually looks pretty natural. Even on my nose, I'll come a little bit closer. There's a little bit of oil coming through, but it's not breaking up, and it's not as bad as with some other foundations. And also on my forehead, around here, I haven't powdered again at all, just the little dabs that I did. That's really all I did. I just left it alone. And I'd say that if you powder just a little bit more, that'll be done as well. But then also if you powder even less or you use a hydrating primer, I feel like this would also work on drier skin. Okay, so my final thoughts are the following. This is an amazing foundation. It actually is. If it can withstand the winter, fall type of weather, the rain, the heat, the changes for more than 9 hours, I'm sold. It does look pretty good. I didn't even feel it that much, so that's also really nice. Doesn't look as pretty as maybe my NARS foundation did, or one of my favorites is the Guerlain Terracotta foundation. No, it doesn't. But are those as long lasting as this one? No, they aren't. And this one is also more affordable. So I think this is the perfect foundation to have in your foundation stash. I think it's a good special occasion foundation, long wear, everything I just mentioned. The only thing is, I think it'll work better on slightly oily skin or even really oily skin than on dry skin, because it doesn't really, the hyaluronic acid thing, it doesn't really work on its own. You have to hydrate it as well. Otherwise it will just take moisture away from your skin. And that is something that happens to me quite a lot with normal skin. So I kind of fear that this is more catered towards normal/oily skin and not so much dry skin. But let me know if you do have dry skin, if you love this foundation. Maybe I'm totally wrong about it. That's just what I think. I think that my terracotta foundation, for instance, it starts the same, but it ends up a little bit more glowy, which shows me that there's a little bit more moisture and creaminess in that foundation. And this one definitely stayed almost matte. So yeah, those are my final thoughts. I'm really happy I tried this foundation. I think it'll be a staple in my foundation collection. I'm so happy to do one last foundation review in 2023. Subscribe if you liked this review, if it was helpful to you. Let me know how this foundation worked for you, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.